Sonic the Hedgehog has been an iconic franchise for a lot of people, even starting one of the many battles with another familiar company known as Nintendo with the Super Mario Bros. Since the 90s, with both mascots raking in millions of dollars. And let me remind you, these companies have been around for quite a few decades, with Sega although making most of their money through arcades with some very alright games. Ever since 2001 saw commercial failure, they eventually just ruled out making consoles and instead just focused on games. But years went by with somewhat well-made 3D Sonic games. Clearly, for a lot of people, this isn't what they wanted out of the company. The community wanted to go back to the retro style of how they made Sonic up until this year of 2025. A new, really well-made Sonic game was released, and my goodness, it was very well done. The game is called Sonic Galactic, a fan game created by the Sonic Galactic Star Team, which, if you remember a little bit back to celebrate Sonic's 25th anniversary, they released Sonic Mania, an original fan game that was also well made by a community who loved the game. So hopefully someday we might see this released by Sega onto different platforms like Nintendo and PC, like Mania did. Now, looking into this version of Sonic, I can tell you this is worth it to play. When it comes to talented people who took the time to work on this game, you know they actually care about the game they're making for you. Which, I mean, if you look at some of the games today on consoles, which they're either slop or just downright bad of a game. I think for a lot of people, when playing the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, you can see a lot of flaws within levels and maps. Like, for example, I was having a good chat with my pal Dustroid, link in the description to his channel, about the level Labyrinth. I don't know the full name, if that's actually it. That's all I know. Where Sonic's number one weakness is water. Now you know British people aren't the only ones who have this weakness as well. But the traps and how fast you go in the levels is just absolute hell. Watching him play, it was like listening to William Afton screaming for Michael.
Michael! Don't leave me here! Michael! Michael!
Now, for a lot of games that started out, especially this Sonic fan game, it currently is in its demo stage, which means it's not fully complete yet. I can't believe I had to explain that. But as you see right here, my pal brought it to my attention that this was being talked about in the community. So I had to get my take on it personally and really give credit for the people who devoted their time into this game. As for a lot of people, they just expect the game to be done within 24 hours, like a few people do, and end up creating a game that doesn't last long and becomes long forgotten. With a lot of developers who care, they realize that rushing a game isn't a good idea, and could expect either a boatload of bugs people have with the game, or it's just not really even that good of a fan game. Basically, like some of the most toddler fan games someone created on Scratch. Not saying that the coding website is bad or anything, I would say that many of the games you'll see on Scratch are either created by 5-year-olds or people who are somewhat talented but just don't really use that script. But yeah, you can see that there's a lot of very talented people, especially that use a more advanced coding platform, I guess you could say. And those developers are willing to devote time into games that, like most companies, need to get a reality check on. And they just really speed work through the games that they make. Like, for example, PS5, they literally have one good game, and most of their exclusives and same with Xbox, not to give the idiots who care about console wars a brain aneurysm, I can appreciate the bonus stages as well, because man, some of the franchise bonus stages were not easy. Well, it's a little bit more challenging in a way, but the one that the Star team created makes it a tiny bit more easier to collect what are now called the gems instead of Chaos Emeralds, which, I mean, nothing wrong with that, even without the Chaos Emeralds not being mentioned. So far, really feels like a breath of fresh air. After all, the 3 games plus Sonic CD mostly require you to collect them in order to power up. Sonic into Super Sonic to defeat Eggman. While you see that in most of the regular franchise games, the Star team was able to perfect a game that isn't almost close to the same thing, but make it look professional was amazing to me. And I find this game has a lot more story and character. But again, don't get me wrong, the original franchise was good in its own sense. It's after Mania, another fan game, we kind of went dark. It was 2017 that the last Sonic fan game kind of came around, and we never really saw much regarding a new Sonic fan game. But eventually, there would be one that shined through the cracks. After a good 6 to 8 years, this game would make its way into mainstream. Even now, it's not easy impressing people on the internet who want to see a game go beyond what most people's imagination could even think what the next big game idea is. And in the grand scheme of things, going back to old ideas isn't bad in any sense. I don't understand why games need to reinvent the wheel when all it takes is the formula that makes video games have a story and character. But if you can't come up with anything else, I don't see why you should rush a new storyline that makes no sense instead of just giving it thought. For the most part, that was kind of just my rant towards today's console video games. Millions of people love how it stayed true by putting a twist on the levels of the Sonic games, while making it look similar to what could be if Sega went to work on another 2D game. It's like the same thing with a 2D Mario game. We haven't seen one that wasn't just creations in Super Mario Maker. Nintendo finally realized that the cash cow with the 3D games wasn't going to last long, so eventually you have to go back to the drawing board and see what the community wants in terms of new game material. Something I forgot to bring up when talking about this fan game was the controller feature, which for a game like this is so cool. When over the years, the controllers have changed a lot, and going from D-pads to joysticks, for many people, this is a better way to play. Even before I tried using a console controller, I tried to see if a Wii remote could be compatible with this game. Obviously it didn't work, but hey, I'm not mad. I enjoyed playing with a controller. Overall, I really enjoyed this game myself. Playing a Sonic game gave me a bit of fresh air, knowing that there's hope that sloppy games like mobile game ads, let's be honest, they'll never disappear. But in the sense we're talking about right now, let's pretend that we are seeing a glance into a better future for video games.